Okay, what we're doing here for these ones is we are looking to solve these equations for a pronumeral, for A in both cases. Now, if we didn't have these numbers here, we would call these literal equations because they only contain letters, or they only contain pronumerals, or they only contain variables. But these do, so they're not quite literal, but it's close enough. The thing that tends to freak people out, by people I mean teenagers, is that if you have a letter on the left hand side and you still have letters on the right hand side, that's fine. That's fine. That's okay, because what's going to end up happening as you work your way through maths, you're going to get things like the answer equals, like x will equal the log to the base e of 5, and that's a number. We just got a bunch of letters over here in the right. That's just one of the things that happens, and something you've got to get used to. So you're not always going to get a number, and a number's not always going to be exact. Anyhow, coming back to what we're doing here. For these, what we're doing, we're trying to solve for A. So we're going to have, that means we will have A on the left hand side and other stuff on the right hand side of the equal sign. So let's have a look at this. So right now we've got A is being multiplied by B, and then C is subtracting all of that. So just like we did before, we want to remove some things. So we've got C minus AB equals 2D. So what's closest to A? B. So B hangs around the longest. We're going to remove C. It's a plus C, so we're going to have to subtract it. So we're going to say minus C. What we do to one side, got to do the other, minus C. So now we're just left with negative AB equals 2D minus C. Now for our next step, we've got negative AB and we've got 2D minus C. So what we do with this is, because we've got a negative here, we can take out that negative straight away, but we won't do that. First thing we'll do, we're saying negative AB, so we've got a multiplication here. Opposite of times is divide. So what we're going to do, we're going to divide both sides by B, because that's what we've got. We just want to solve for A, remember? So we'll divide this side by B, divide this side by B. So now B over B just leaves us with negative A equals 2D minus C over B. Now, because it's negative A, what we want to do, we want to multiply both sides by negative 1. So essentially, everything that is negative becomes positive, and everything is positive becomes a negative. So basically what we're doing here, we are making this negative 1, and we're going to do the same thing here, and multiply this by negative 1. So from there, I'm just going to move this up a little bit. So we're left with A equals, and like I said, this will be multiplied by negative 1, so negative 2D. So negative 2D will become plus C, and that is just going to be still over B, because we've taken this negative and we've multiplied it by what's at the top, not the bottom. That's just how it works. So that's what we end up with. A equals negative 2D plus C. Let's have a look at another one. Over here we're saying B minus A times C divided by 2 times D equals 3. So once again, we're going to remove this B. It's a plus B, so we're going to subtract it. So I'm going to say B minus A C over 2D equals, and that equals 3. We're going to subtract B from that side, subtract B from this side. The B's go away, so we're left with A C over 2D equals 3 minus B. Now, for things like this, we can make life a little bit easier for ourselves, or I don't know if you make life easy for yourself, but if we look at this, we are dividing by 2D, so that means we've got to multiply by 2D. And what we do to one side, we do the other side. So over here, we're going to say AC over 2D. We're going to multiply that by 2D. And if we, what I meant by making life easy for ourselves, we've got two terms at the bottom there, or it's rather one term with two values there. We'll put that over there on the, or we can multiply both, we can multiply by both of those. So now that equals 3 minus B, and we're going to go, 2D. Okay, so now that we've got everything that we need, so now that we're multiplying both sides by whatever's here at the bottom, if we're dividing by 2d, we're going to multiply by 2d, so that means we are left with a c here on the left, and over here we can just leave that as it is. 2d 3 minus b. And then for our last step, we know that a is multiplying c, or that c is multiplying a. So that means if we're multiplying, we've then got to divide by c. We're going to divide this side by c, so we're left with a equals 2d 3 minus b all over c. And that's all there is to those ones. Like I said, people tend to get a bit freaked out because we're left with letters on the right hand side, whereas you're not normally used to that. You're just used to a equaling a number. That's not always going to be the case, and hopefully this will make that a little bit easier for you.